1. Let me tell you about this fascinating 1977 GMC Sierra that just popped up on Craigslist for $18,900. I've got to be honest with you. These classic Sierra trucks are becoming increasingly rare, especially in what appears to be a well-maintained condition like this one. This is a Grande 15 model with the desirable short bed configuration and 4x4 capability, perfect for both show and functionality. Under the hood, you're getting the robust 6.6L 400 V8 engine, which was one of GMC's reliable powerhouses from that era. The automatic transmission makes it more accessible for daily driving, and having power steering and power brakes is a huge plus for a truck of this vintage. The green-on-green color combination is period correct and gives it that classic 70s vibe. While the odometer shows 70,000 miles, with the title being exempt due to age, we can't verify if those are original miles. That's just something to keep in mind. Being offered by a dealer, you might have some room for negotiation on that $18,900 price tag. For context, these 77 Sierras in good condition have been climbing in value, though you'll want to inspect it thoroughly, as with any classic vehicle. One thing I should mention, this is the kind of truck that represents the golden era of American pickups, when they were built like tanks and designed with that iconic squared-off styling. Just remember, you'll need to factor in additional costs for tax, title, and dealer fees on top of the asking price. 2. Let me tell you about this honest 1978 Ford F100 Custom that's currently listed for $6,300 in Durham, NC. This is one of those straightforward, no-nonsense work trucks that Ford built their reputation on, and I've got to say, the price point seems pretty fair for what you're getting. The heart of this long bed pickup is the legendary 302 V8, paired with a manual 3-speed transmission with column shift, a combo that's both reliable and engaging to drive. The seller's being upfront about the truck's condition, and there's some good news here. They've recently invested in meaningful mechanical improvements, including new shocks, front suspension bushings, flywheel, radiator, starter, fuel pump, water pump, and ignition components. That $800 suspension work is definitely a plus. Let's be real about the body condition. It's not perfect, and the seller's honest about that. There are some small dents, and there's rust where the bed floor meets the vertical section behind the cab, a common issue with these trucks. However, the overall body is described as solid and straight, which is crucial. With 50,000 miles showing, though on these older trucks you always want to verify mileage, and the ability to cruise comfortably at highway speeds, this F100 seems to be a solid driver rather than a showpiece. The clean NC title and the detailed maintenance list suggest this truck has been cared for. 3. Let me tell you about this sweet 1985 Chevy C10 Custom Deluxe that's up for grabs at $11,700. These square-body Chevys have been shooting up in popularity, and I can see why this one's catching attention. Under the hood, you're getting the tried-and-true 350 V8 paired with a 350 automatic transmission, one of the most reliable powertrains Chevy ever made. The owners added some nice touches with an Edelbrock 600 carb and dual exhaust, which should give this truck a nice rumble and some extra pep. With 133,500 miles, these engines are often just getting broken in if they've been maintained well. Now, let's be real about the condition. The seller's being upfront about the body having very little rust and imperfections, which is pretty good for a truck pushing 40 years old. The frame and undercarriage being in great shape is crucial. That's often where these old trucks can have issues. The interior is a highlight here. Finding an original bench seat in good condition, minus a few minor spots, is genuinely rare for these C10s. The new carpet is a nice touch, and the upgraded stereo brings some modern convenience to this classic. One thing to note, while it's set up for AC, there's no compressor installed. That's something to factor into your budget if you're in a warm climate. The heat works great though, which is a plus. 4. Let me tell you about this fascinating 1973 Chevy C20 that's currently listed for $10,000. This isn't your average 73 Chevy. We're looking at a seriously well-thought-out build here that deserves some attention. Let's talk about what makes this truck special. Under the hood, You've got a custom-built small block 400 with some serious upgrades. 4-bolt mains, dart heads, and a gear-driven cam. But here's the really interesting part. It's set up to run on propane. That's pretty unique and environmentally conscious for a classic truck. The drivetrain has been thoroughly modernized with a 700R4 overdrive transmission, a huge upgrade from the original, and 4.56 gears in the rebuilt rear end, making this a serious towing machine. With only 10,000 miles on these rebuilt components, you're essentially getting fresh mechanicals in a classic wrapper. The seller rates the interior as 9/10, which is impressive for a 50-year-old truck, and that custom bench seat with a folding console adds some modern comfort. Being a C20 3.4-ton long bed with power steering, power brakes, AC, and cruise control, this truck was well optioned from the factory, and those fifth wheel slats make it clear this was built to work. At 96,842 miles on the odometer, it's got some life experience. But with all the rebuilds, that's not a concern. For $10,000, you're getting a uniquely modified classic truck that combines vintage charm with practical upgrades. The propane conversion might seem unusual, but it could be a real advantage with today's fuel prices. 5. Let me tell you about this 1981 Ford F-250 that's currently listed for $8,950. This is one of those old-school workhorses that's got some interesting features, particularly if you're in the market for a winter warrior. The headline here is that Western plow setup. These F-250s were popular plow trucks for a reason. Under the hood, you're getting the 6.6L 400 V8 gas engine, which was a robust power plant for its time, paired with an automatic transmission and 4x4 capability. With 97,300 miles showing, it's relatively low mileage for a truck of this vintage, especially considering these were typically used as work trucks. Being a dealer listing, the price of $8,950 doesn't include tax, tag, and title fees, so keep that in mind when budgeting. The red paint appears to be holding up, though as with any 40-plus-year-old work truck, you'll want to inspect it thoroughly in person. I've got to be straight with you. These early 80s F-250s with plow setups can be either a gold mine or a money pit, depending on how they were maintained. The 400 engine is known for being thirsty, but it's also known for its durability when properly maintained. For the asking price, you're getting a classic heavy-duty pickup with plow capabilities, potentially perfect for someone who needs a reliable winter work truck or wants to add to their classic Ford collection. Just remember to factor in those additional dealer fees. 6. Let me tell you about this interesting 1979 Chevy El Camino that's up for grabs at $10,000. This is one of those unique car-truck hybrids that's got quite a story to tell, and I've got to be straight with you about what we're looking at here. First off, it's rocking the straight-six engine, rather than the V8 that many El Caminos came with. The engine's been rebuilt, which is definitely a plus, but keep in mind that the odometer's broken. It shows 100,000 miles, but take that with a grain of salt. The seller mentions they used it as a picture car, which suggests it's got some visual appeal. They've put some work into the suspension with new control arms and bushings, which should help with handling and ride quality. The gray paint gives it a more modern look, and they've added some contemporary touches like a big subwoofer with an amp and Bluetooth audio. Nice upgrades if you're into your tunes. Now, being honest here, the seller's motivation is clear, baby on the way, which might give you some negotiating room. The fact that they're upfront about the broken odometer is actually refreshing. Too many sellers try to hide these details. For $10,000, you're getting an El Camino that's been modernized in some ways while keeping its classic character. These vehicles are getting harder to find, especially ones that run and drive well. Just make sure to do a thorough inspection, particularly since we can't verify the true mileage. 7. Let me tell you about this interesting 1978 Chevy Silverado 3/4-ton that's listed for $7,000. This isn't just any old Silverado. It's a camper special with the mighty 454 big block, and I've got to be straight with you about what we're looking at here. The seller's honest about listing it in fair condition, which is refreshing. This is a purpose-built workhorse, set up specifically for hauling fifth-wheel trailers and campers. You can see that in the details. It's got the holes in the bed for camper stabilizer rods, and those special tabs connecting the cab to the box for better stability with large campers. Under the hood, that 454 big block is what you want for serious towing, and the dual exhaust system probably gives it a nice rumble. The mechanical specs are impressive for a heavy-duty user: floating axles, corporate rear end, and extra overload springs. These are all features you'd want for serious hauling work. At 95,000 miles, it's seen some use, but these trucks were built to last. The new windshield is a recent improvement, and the seller notes it has good brakes, which is crucial for a towing rig. For $7,000, you're getting a purpose-built towing machine from an era when trucks were simpler but incredibly robust. It's not a show truck, it's a worker, and it's priced accordingly. If you're looking for a vintage heavy-duty hauler, especially for a classic camper setup, this could be your rig. 8. Let me tell you about this seriously modified 1980 Chevy Silverado C10 that's up for grabs at $17,000. This isn't your grandfather's work truck. We're looking at a thoroughly modernized street machine that's got some serious upgrades. First off, let's talk about what makes this truck special. It's a short bed model with the rare square headlights, and the seller emphasizes no rust, which is huge for these square bodies. But the real story here is what's under the hood. They've ditched the original engine for a cammed 5.3L LS motor paired with a 4L60E transmission, all controlled by a Terminator X system. That's a serious modern performance upgrade that brings reliability and power to the table. The stance game is strong with this one. It's running brand new staggered 22 US mags wheels, and it's bagged with a step notch, meaning you can lay it low when parked and raise it for driving. That's a clean setup for a show truck. This is clearly built to be a head-turner, combining classic square body style with modern performance and adjustable stance. If you're looking for a show-quality C10 that can actually be driven and enjoyed, this could be your truck. 9. Let me tell you about this gorgeous 1969 Ford Ranchero that's listed for $25,000. This isn't just any Ranchero. We're looking at a well-documented, highly original 500 model that's got some serious collector appeal. Under the hood, you've got the H-Code 351 V8 paired with a C4 automatic transmission and a 9-inch rear end, one of Ford's most reliable powertrains from the muscle car era. The factory power disc brakes are a desirable option that makes this car-truck hybrid much more drivable in today's traffic. What really sets this Ranchero apart is its provenance. Being a two-owner vehicle with full service records and manuals is incredibly rare for a 50-plus-year-old vehicle. The Kansas City-built car wears its original lime green color, though it did receive one repaint about 22 years ago. The black interior is original, and the factory AM/FM stereo is still in place. Talk about preservation. The seller's including extra trim moldings, always good to have spares for these classics, and it's been upgraded with a dual exhaust system, which probably gives that 351 a nice voice. The fact that the original Brightwork is still present and in good condition is a big deal. These trim pieces are getting harder to find. At $25,000, you're paying for originality and documentation as much as the vehicle itself. This appears to be a well-preserved example of a relatively rare model. The Ranchero 500 with the 351 V8 isn't something you see every day, especially in this condition with this level of documentation. 10. Let me tell you about this fascinating 1984 Chevy Suburban K10 I just came across on Craigslist. You know, these old-school Suburbans have a special place in my heart, and this one's got quite a story to tell at $7,000. Let's be real here. This isn't a show car, and the seller's honest about that. The exterior might make you think twice, but don't let that fool you. What we've got here is a solid workhorse with a rust-free frame, which is honestly like finding gold for these old Suburbans. It's rocking the classic 350 V8 under the hood, paired with an automatic transmission and 4WD that still works. That's pretty sweet for a 40-year-old rig. The odometer shows 129,000 miles with a rollover, but check this out. The owner's been putting in serious work lately. We're talking fresh fluids all around, new hand-cooked tires, and a bunch of practical upgrades, like new weather stripping and door strikers. They've even freshened up the interior with a new dash pad and seat covers. Sure, it needs a carb tune-up, and the carpet's seen better days. The seller's upfront about that. But man, this is a solid foundation for either a cool restoration project or just a dependable classic SUV. With that clean title and all the recent maintenance, $7,000 isn't crazy for a piece of American automotive history that's still ready to work. These square-body Suburbans are getting harder to find in decent shape, and this one's got good bones. It's not perfect, but it's honest. And sometimes that's exactly what you want in a classic truck. 11. Let me tell you about this absolute gem I found on Craigslist, a 1968 Ford F-250 Highboy that's got me seriously excited. At $15,000, this is one of those trucks that makes you stop scrolling and take notice. Let's be real here. Finding a Highboy in this condition is getting harder by the day. This one's sporting a freshly rebuilt FE 390 big block that's been given a little extra muscle, and with just 100,000 original miles, it's barely broken in for these old workhorses. The seller's done their homework here. We're looking at a truck that's had some serious love and attention. What really catches my eye is how much has been upgraded while keeping the soul of the truck intact. They've converted it to power brakes and added gear-driven power steering. Smart modernizations that make this classic actually drivable in today's world. The interior is remarkably well preserved with working gauges, including a tach. And get this, no dash cracks, which is rare for these old Fords. The body's incredibly straight for a 57-year-old truck, with just a touch of rust at one front fender, and the seller's honest about that. It's running a manual 4-speed with a beefy transfer case and locking hubs, all freshly serviced with new U-joints and clutch. The flatbed's in great shape, there's a new winch, and those tires are practically new. For $15,000, you're getting a piece of Ford truck history that's been thoughtfully updated while maintaining its original character. These Highboys are legendary for a reason, and this one's ready to work or show. Your choice. With all the recent mechanical work, it's not just a pretty face. It's a turnkey classic that you can actually use and enjoy. 12. Let me tell you about this 1967 Ford F-250 Camper Special I just spotted on Craigslist, listed at $28,800. Now I've got to be straight with you. That's serious money, but let's break down what we're looking at here. This is one of those rare Camper Special F-250s with just 83,000 original miles on the clock, and here's where it gets interesting. It's sporting a freshly rebuilt engine with only 300 miles on it. The seller claims they've invested over $30,000 in this truck, and looking at the list of new parts, I can see why. We're talking about a comprehensive refresh here. New carburetor, radiator, battery, alternator, and fresh rubber all around. The paint job is new, and they've had the seat reupholstered, which shows attention to both the mechanical and cosmetic aspects. The automatic transmission has also been rebuilt, which is a big-ticket item on these old Fords. Now, I've got to be honest. While $28,800 is on the higher end for a 67 F-250, even a Camper Special, you're getting a truck that's essentially been mechanically renewed from top to bottom. The seller's brief description suggests there's much more done to the truck, though I wish we had more details about the specific work performed. For someone looking for a turnkey classic F-250 that's ready to roll, this could be worth considering. These Camper Specials are getting harder to find, especially ones that have had this level of investment put into them. Just remember, always inspect in person and maybe bring along a classic Ford expert if you're serious about pulling the trigger at this price point. 13. Let me tell you about this interesting 1977 Chevy C20 I found on Craigslist for $6,000. I've got to be completely honest with you. This one's a bit of a project, but it might be perfect for the right buyer. Let's address the elephant in the room first. This truck's got some challenges. There's no clear title. It's pending smog. There's rust on the hood, passenger door, and front fenders, and it's missing its back bumper and brackets. The 22-inch rims and tires need replacement, and there's that pesky brake light on the dash that needs attention. But here's where it gets interesting. Someone's dropped a big block V8 in place of the original 350, paired with a 4-speed manual transmission. It's got long tube headers and an Edelbrock 1913 carb, which suggests someone was building this for performance. The seller's upfront about not knowing the exact engine displacement or the truck's history, which is refreshingly honest. Here's the real kicker. If you're in California, this might not be your truck. The big block swap means it could have smog certification issues, which is why the seller's recommending an out-of-state buyer. However, for someone outside California looking for a project truck with some muscle, this could be a decent starting point at $6,000. The truck runs, drives, and stops. That's a good foundation. Sure, it needs work, but for someone who wants a Project C20 with some serious power potential and isn't afraid of some bodywork, this might be worth checking out. Just remember to factor in those needed repairs and the title situation when considering the price. 14. Let me tell you about this 1976 Chevy Scottsdale Big Ten. I just found on Craigslist for $5,500. I've got to be completely straight with you on this one. It's definitely a project truck, and the seller isn't trying to hide that fact at all. Let's start with what's working. It's got the classic 5.7L V8, 3 and 50, and an automatic transmission that's reportedly in working condition. The truck comes with a clean title, no DMV fees, and the seller's even throwing in some extra parts. That's the good news. Now, let's be real here. This truck needs a full restoration, and the seller is crystal clear about that. They're straight up telling you this isn't something you're going to drive home. It needs to be towed. The odometer's broken, and while it shows 100,000 miles, who knows what the real mileage is? At $5,500, you're basically buying a project canvas. This is for someone who's got the skills, tools, and patience to bring an old Scottsdale back to life. These 76 Big Tens are getting harder to find, and they've got great potential when restored properly. The square body Chevys have a huge following, and parts availability is generally pretty good. If you're looking for a turnkey truck, this isn't it. But if you're searching for a restoration project with good bones, and you've got the mechanical know-how, or are ready to learn, this could be an interesting starting point. Just make sure to factor in all the restoration costs when considering that $5,500 asking price. 15. Let me tell you about this 1966 Chevy C10 I found on Craigslist, listed at $24,000. But I've got to be honest, there's something unusual about this listing that raises some questions. First, let's address the elephant in the room. The listing shows this as a 4-cylinder truck, which is definitely not right for a 66 C10. These trucks came with either inline-6 or V8 engines, so there's either a major modification we're not being told about, or this is a listing error. The seller claims it's a daily driver and a 2-owner vehicle with local history, which is fantastic if true. It's wearing white paint and rolls on new tires, and apparently has no emissions issues. The odometer shows 84,000 miles, and it comes with a clean title. However, at $24,000, we really need more information. The seller's description is surprisingly brief for a truck commanding this kind of money. We don't know about any restorations, modifications, or the actual engine setup. These C10s are highly desirable classics, but at this price point, buyers deserve a much more detailed description of what they're getting. If you're seriously interested in this truck, I'd strongly recommend getting a lot more details about its actual specifications, restoration history, and current condition. While clean 66 C10s can certainly command this kind of money when properly restored, you'll want to verify exactly what you're looking at here. The brief description and the questionable engine specification make this one worth investigating thoroughly before making any moves. 16. Let me tell you about this 1979 GMC High Sierra 4x4 I just spotted on Craigslist for $13,500. This is one of those builds that catches your eye, but let's be completely honest about what we're looking at here. First things first, it's rocking a salvage title, which is something you need to know up front. But don't let that scare you away just yet, because there's some serious upgrades here worth talking about. Under the hood, you've got the classic 350 V8, paired with a 350 turbo transmission, and according to the seller, it starts right up and runs strong. The truck's got some pretty fresh modifications. We're talking a new 4-inch rough country lift kit, which is paired with some meaty 35-inch Falken Wild Peak tires on alloy wheels. They've added a 2-inch cowl induction hood, new, and both gas tanks are functional, which is actually pretty rare to find these days. The attention to detail is impressive, New energy suspension body mount bushings, fresh hood hinges, and they've redone the interior with a new black dash pad. These aren't just cosmetic upgrades, they're practical improvements that make a difference in how the truck drives and feels. At $13,500, you're getting a lifted square body GMC with some solid upgrades. Yes, there's that salvage title to consider, but if you're looking for a classic 4x4 that stands out from the crowd and has already had a lot of the expensive upgrade work done, this could be worth checking out. Just make sure to get the full story on that salvage title and maybe have a mechanic look it over before pulling the trigger. 17. Let me tell you about this 1984 Dodge Ram Charger I just found on Craigslist, listed at $15,000. You know, these classic Ram Chargers are getting harder to find, especially in good condition. This particular example is pretty interesting. It's a two-owner vehicle from Idaho, which usually means less rust than coastal vehicles, showing just 80,275 miles on the clock. The seller claims it's absolutely beautiful and runs and drives beautifully, with the 4R4 system in working order. They're even getting the windows tinted as we speak. Now, let me be straight with you. $15,000 is serious money for an '84 Ram Charger, so you'd want to inspect this one carefully in person. The seller's description is pretty brief, and we're missing some crucial details about the engine condition, maintenance history, and any potential restoration work. These typically came with either a 318 or 360 V8, but we're not told which one's under the hood. What's interesting is that it's being sold through Ghetto Choppers in Oceanside, and the seller's only taking offers in person, which is actually a good sign, as it lets potential buyers really inspect what they're getting. If this Ram Charger is as clean as suggested, it could be a solid find. These are becoming increasingly collectible, and finding one with relatively low miles and two owners is pretty rare. Just make sure to do your due diligence, check for rust, verify the mileage, and get a good look at all the mechanicals before making any moves at this price point. 18. We've got a real treat for you, a 1967 Chevy C10 that's sure to turn heads and get your heart racing. This beauty is currently up for grabs on Craigslist, and let me tell you, it's a deal you won't want to miss. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this classic truck. The seller describes it as like new, and from what I can see, they're not exaggerating. With only 2,700 miles on the odometer since it was built, this C10 is practically a time capsule. It's clear that the owner has put a lot of love and care into this vehicle, and it shows in every detail. Under the hood, you'll find a beastly 454 motor with 425 horsepower, built by none other than Hutchinson Racing. This big block engine is paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, giving you complete control over the power at your fingertips. And with highway gears, this truck is ready to cruise down the freeway in style. But that's not all. This C10 is also equipped with 4-wheel drive and locking hubs, making it a versatile machine that can handle any terrain. Whether you're hitting the back roads or the job site, this truck has got you covered. And with power steering and a tilt wheel, you'll be riding in comfort no matter where you go. Now, I know what you're thinking. A truck this cool must cost a fortune. But here's the best part. The seller is asking just $23,500 for this beauty. That's right. For less than the price of a new pickup, you could be the proud owner of a piece of automotive history. 19. We're diving into the world of classic trucks, and boy, do I have a gem for you. Currently listed on Craigslist is a stunning 1970 GMC 2500 pickup truck, and it's ready to steal your heart. First things first, let's talk about the powerhouse under the hood. This beauty is equipped with a 350 cubic inch V8 engine that runs like a dream. Paired with an automatic transmission, you'll be cruising down the highway with ease. And with power steering and front disc brakes, handling this truck is a breeze. Now, let's talk about the condition of this classic. The seller reports that the odometer reads 85,000 original miles, which is pretty impressive for a vehicle that's over 50 years old. The body is straight as an arrow and painted in a gorgeous dark green metallic that's sure to turn heads wherever you go. And with new 17 General Grabber tires mounted on Fuel Beast wheels, this truck has a stance that commands attention. Inside, you'll find new upholstery that's both comfortable and stylish. The radio and heater are in working order, and all the gauges are functioning properly. It's clear that the owner has taken great care of this truck, and it shows in every detail. Now, I know what you're thinking. A truck this cool must come with a hefty price tag, right? Well, here's the best part. The seller is asking just $26,000 for this beauty. That's right, for less than the price of a new pickup, you could be the proud owner of a piece of automotive history. But wait, there's more. The seller also mentions that they have the original build sheet for this truck, which is a rare find. And if you're looking to trade, they're open to swapping for an El Camino 20. We've got a real head-turner for you, a 1972 Chevy C10 that's been transformed into a custom rat rod. This beauty is currently up for grabs on Craigslist, and let me tell you, it's not your grandpa's truck. First things first, let's talk about the condition of this classic. The seller describes it as excellent, and from what I can see, they're not exaggerating. This C10 has been fully customized with a bagged suspension all around and a C-notch in the frame, giving it a low and smooth ride that's sure to turn heads. Under the hood, you'll find a reliable 350 engine paired with a 3-speed transmission. This truck is a daily driver, so you know it's been well maintained and ready to hit the road. And with a new gas tank covered by the bed toolbox, you won't have to worry about running out of fuel anytime soon. But let's talk about the real showstopper here, the custom touches. This C10 is rocking some seriously cool red halo lights that are sure to make a statement wherever you go. And with the ability to run it squatted, slammed, raked, or however you like, this truck is all about personal style. Now I know what you're thinking. A custom truck like this must cost a fortune. But here's the best part. The seller is asking just $13,000 for this beauty. That's right. For less than the price of a new sedan, you could be the proud owner of a one-of-a-kind rat rod. Of course, as with any used vehicle, it's important to do your due diligence before making a purchase. But from what I can see, this 1972 Chevy C10 is the real deal. The seller mentions that it has a clean title in hand and is currently registered, so you won't have to worry about any paperwork headaches.